Happy Friday, everybody. Thank you for joining us in the Locher Room today. I'm Alan Locher. Daytime veteran Stephen Schnetzer is spending the hour with us to look back at his over 5 decades working in film, theater, and television. His daytime career began on Days of Our Lives as Steve Olson in 1978, and from Salem, he moved over to Llaneview before landing in Bay City as Cass Winthrop on Another World in 1982. Stephen's character of Cass moved to Oakdale, and As the World Turns after Another World was canceled in 1999. He is currently playing Richard Kaufman on Gregori J. Martin's The Bay and will be returning for season 9. Please help me welcome to the Locher Room again, Stephen Schnetzer. Hello, my friend.
Hello, how are you, Alan?
I'm well. Thank you for
Good.
being here. A lot of people here, excited to see your face, excited to see you. So thank you. I'm so excited that The Bay worked out. Did you have fun working on it? I know you're returning soon to shoot season 9.
It was a lot of fun, absolutely. And I got to play with some great actors. I had a lot of fun with my old pal A. Martinez. We had a couple of cat and mouse scenes where he's the police chief or captain, and I'm a lawyer for a bad guy. And so it was a lot of fun to play those scenes and to watch them.
That's awesome. Gregori J. Martin, you didn't know prior to this, right?
You know, we apparently crossed paths way back in the day. I think he came through as a PA or intern. He started, starting out in the office at Another World. At least that's what he told me.
Yeah,
he's I have no reason to disbelieve him.
He's a big daytime lover and supporter. So
he sure is.
Have fun with season 9. I think they do a great job on the show. I think it looks beautiful when they do The Bay, and
yeah,
I've enjoyed it.
It's kind of an all-star cast that he's put together there.
Really has. He yeah, absolutely. I agree. There's quite a talented crew on there. Take it back.
I look forward to. I think the scripts are just about finished. I look forward to seeing what he has in mind for me this go round.
Well, he said he's got some great content. That's all he shared with me. Take us back to Canton, Massachusetts. What stands out from your childhood back in Massachusetts?
The normalcy, this is just objective. It's not a judgment. It was kind of a not a sophisticated upbringing. Boston's a very respectable city, but it's it's provincial compared to New York. So it was a very normal. We moved out to what had been a farm community, and it turned into suburban Boston. My father commuted every day into Boston to work in the post office. So safe neighborhoods. Parents would say, go out and play, and you'd go out for 4, 5, 6 hours. No one worried about it. I had a couple of 3 buddies in my immediate neighborhood, and until I got old enough where I could range further, and we'd play sports in the neighborhood, and it was just freaking normal,
Those were the days, just going out and playing.
Oh yeah, and using your imagination instead of
the device.
having the devices supply your stimulus or stimuli.
Seriously. During your senior year in high school, a teacher asked you to go out for a play. Why do you think he asked you to go out?
He saw the potential great. No. My laptop flipped as I started to. Oh, he probably saw a natural ham.
Were you a ham back then?
I don't remember. It was the first play. It was the first play I did, So in the classroom, I don't know if I don't remember being particularly being a cut up or, a funny guy. I always thought I was uh, on the shyer side all through
Mhm.
high school, but I don't know, man. He saw something and he nailed it. God bless
Yeah,
him,
it's amazing
Mr.
sometimes
Mr. Chisholm.
what a teacher can see. But seriously, it wasn't acting wasn't on your radar, and you went off to college to be a teacher.
I went off to college. Acting was not on the radar back. Now you've got Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, a lot of uh, actors coming out of the Boston area. Back then, there was nobody. It just wasn't a thing you aspired towards. All my classmates, became lawyers and doctors, and now they're judges and teachers, and it wasn't on the radar. So me and an actor, Paul Guilfoyle, we grew up a mile apart, and Gilly played the police chief on CSI for like a dozen years, and he's been on Air Force One as Harrison Ford's chief of staff, and
Oh yeah,
Gilly's
yeah.
got a great career going for him.
I love
And
that
he and I
movie.
are the only ones in our group that came out of there. Um, Gilly's mentioned very kindly by Al Pacino when they worked on a project together as a really fine actor. So, but it just wasn't on the radar, as I said, and but I got the bug when I did that senior class play that Mr. Chisholm enlisted me for, and then I did another couple of plays in high school, but it didn't seem like a serious career choice or option. So I majored in French, have a degree in French, and minor in Spanish. And while I went for that major, I went out for class plays. Um,
Do you
West Side Story and All the King's Men and uh, stuff like that. Some
do
musicals, Carnival, um,
oh wow.
Wonderful Town. Uh,
Do you
so
speak both of those languages fluently?
I speak French more fluently, but I get by in Spanish.
That's
It was fun.
incredible.
Last September, my partner Autumn and I went to meet our son Ben in the south of France. He had just finished shooting a movie, and I got to visit with my 2-year-old at that time 2-year-old granddaughter, and we Airbnb a place in Provence, so I got to practice my French, and then they returned to London to their home in London, and Autumn and I drove to northeastern Spain, around where Dali lives on the coast, a small town village called Roses. And so I got to practice both languages last September. It was a lot of fun.
I bet. And it must have been fun for her to hear that and your son to hear you you speak.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Tell me about some of your mentors or most influential teachers who've had the greatest impact on you.
Well, Gerald Friedman, may he rest in peace, was a well-regarded director in New York and went on to run the program at North Carolina School for the Arts as the artistic director. Jerry saw me in my last college production as a judge, and at a wine and cheese thing after our performance, he asked me what I was doing that summer. And in 1970, you gave me up. You said I've been doing this for 50 years, though.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. I don't mind, but another actor might, so you better be careful.
Yeah.
Um, no, I'm proud of
Anybody,
to say
anybody can find that out. It's not like I'm really giving it away.
that's true. I'm proud to say I've made a living for 53 years acting.
I
So
mean, bravo, my friend.
yeah,
That is something.
that's not many people can say that.
I don't know
And
if you
Jerry saw this play in '71, and he asked me to audition for him to perform Shakespeare in the Park in New York City, very famous venue for summer free Shakespeare that's open to all of the 5 boroughs. Anybody can come and see it for free. And so I auditioned. He hired me to come to New York. So I turned down the teaching position that I was offered, and I turned down the Peace Corps position that I was offered to teach French in Morocco, to teach English to French-speaking students in Morocco. And I went to New York for $85 a week and the promise of 3 months' work. So Jerry was the first.
That's incredible.
Then William Ball was the second. He hired me to go out to San Francisco to work at the American Conservatory Theater, a great regional theater company with a illustrious history. And I spent 4 years there doing about 20 main stage productions, classical repertory. And then it was time to get into TV. And Wes Kenny, the great Wes Kenny, who was the executive producer on Days of Our Lives, hired me in 77-ish and had me come on as Julie's brother. And I have an announcement to make. Breaking news. As far as I know, next week I'm flying out to LA. I hope I'm not giving anything up. But they've asked Steve Olson to come back for a couple of episodes. I'll say no more than that. So
do not say any more than that. I don't know if they wanted you to say that, but that's
okay.
Awesome.
Well, if you have the power to cut, maybe that would be a good thing to do. We're live, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah.
We're not going to say another word.
I lie all the time. Always lie.
Let's talk about Julie, Susan, and Bill Hayes, and the late Bill Hayes. What do you remember about both? Working with both of them.
How gracious and kind they were to me. How raw I was in front of a camera. No camera experience before that. And I was trying to project off the back wall of a 1,200 seat theater when I came into and the boom is right here, So it took me longer to get comfortable in front of a camera than any actor I've ever seen transitioning from stage to screen. But Bill and Susan were extremely kind, and so
yeah, that's
Bill had a great run. I loved that he and Susan have been on the show all this time.
I mean, right. I mean, you've worked steadily. We just spoke about, but like to have won almost all of that time is, that doesn't happen in this business. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Really, really nuts. I just interviewed Petronia Paley. Do you remember her? Do you know?
I love Petronia.
So she was fired from the doctors. She said, sort of for the same reason you're talking about Steve. She would shout across because she comes from the theater like you did. She had no experience. And she said it's the best thing that ever happened to get fired. So she would go and learn how to like relax and do it. But fascinating, they hire folks who haven't had that experience and don't necessarily, give you a little guidance.
You're thrown to the wolves, you just first of all, there's no time. You'd have to budget. Some shows did. Another World eventually budgeted for a coach to work with, young actors who had a lot of potential but needed to learn the acting vocabulary for camera. So they did that the last few years we were on the air. But most times they wouldn't find that kind of investment to make in the budget. So yeah, you were just thrown in the deep end of the pool, and you either swam or you drowned. So yeah.
But
Paul Rausch, the executive producer, was famous for hiring theater actors. Doug Watson, Vicki Wyndham, Connie Ford. Well, Connie was old Hollywood too, but she started, at the Actors Studio and stuff like that. And Morgan Freeman and Bobby Christian and on and on and on. And we all came out of the theater.
Paul loved going to the theater.
He did.
Yeah.
He was a real cultural man. Another one of my professional fathers.
But 8 years prior to, I think, Days, I mean, you were doing theater. What are some of your favorite theater roles before you got into TV?
Oh, I played a character called the Blue Mutant in a kind of a sci-fi superhero thing. I was the arch villain,
On
and I got to
stage?
fly out a window. I got to on stage. I got to fly out a window onto inflatable bags, but you'd see me fly out, and so that was a lot of fun. I was brought out there to play an iconic production of Taming of the Shrew, and it remained in the repertory for 3 years. I was not Petruchio, but I was Lucentio, the lover who, one of 3 lovers who woos Kate's sister. Everybody wants Kate's sister. Nobody wants the shrew. And that stayed in the repertory for 3 years. And it was filmed for the Theater in America series for PBS way back then. And it's studied in acting programs now. People recognize me from that performance that we
Wow.
did, like in 1976 or so, 77. That was great. I played Christian in Cyrano de Bergerac. What else? Just a lot of Shakespeare.
And stage is your first love.
It really is. Yeah, it's you. When you do film or TV, you're tightrope walking with a net. When you do stage, you're tightrope walking without a net. So,
Well, thank you, Mr. Chisholm.
yes, sir.
I mean, serious. He,
Yeah,
he put it in front of you. When
right.
you left Days, you came to New York City to do a Broadway show. Was that your first Broadway show?
Yes,
What show was that?
it was called Filomena. There's an Italian playwright who is the equivalent to our Neil Simon. His name is Edoardo De Filippo, and he wrote many, many romantic comedies. This one is based on the movie Marriage Italian Style with Sophia Loren and Marcello Mastroianni was based
Oh,
on this. And it was produced in the West End with Joan Plowright and Frank Finley as the married couple. And Franco Zeffirelli was directing it. And
wow.
Franco hired me to play one of the 3 sons. So that was obviously a thrill.
I bet.
Um, and I had met Franco because he was going to do a production of Hamlet at the Amundsen Theater in L.A. Listen to this. Richard Gere was going to play Hamlet. Amy Irving was going to play Ophelia. Gene Simmons was going to play Gertrude. Kirk Douglas was going to play Claudius. E.G. Marshall was going to play Polonius. And Stephen Schnetzer was going to play Laertes.
Wow.
But while he and I were going back and forth about whether or not I needed to bleach my hair blonde, the Amundsen pulled the plug on the whole production because he wanted to oversee the construction of the sets and costumes with his Italian designers in Rome, and it was just going to be grossly over budget.
Right.
So they canceled the whole production. But he remembered me, and he had me come into this production. But then he and Joan Plowright had an artistic difference of opinion. We went to Baltimore, and then we went to Boston for a month each for out of town. And Joan wanted to do an Italian dialect. And Franco was adamant. He said, "We're speaking Italian. You don't do an Italian dialect." And Joan said, "But when you do an Italian dialect in English, it gets in your body more. You use your gestures more." So they both had a point. But Franco ended up quitting, and Laurence Olivier took over directing the rest of the run.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to take just a moment because my battery saver just came on, and that's not
Okay.
a good sign.
No,
Hold on, just bear with me.
absolutely.
I can still talk.
Yeah, there's a ton of love coming from all the fans.
Oh, that's great. I love the fans.
Danielle says, I was a big Cass and Frankie fan. They had a way of making me laugh, cry, and smile. Another World brought my family together. Cass was my favorite, especially with Frankie. They had chemistry.
Oh, wow.
So many. But
Those were
upon
great
getting,
days. Those were great days.
oh
We
yeah,
have
we will come to Bay City. But in New York City, you were cast by Mary Jo Slater to play Marcello Salta on One Life to Live. Who was Marcello, and who did he get to play with in Llaneview?
Marcello was an Italian beer truck driver.
Beer truck driver?
An Italian beer truck driver. Yeah, beer distributor truck driver. You know the Budweiser trucks?
Yeah.
And he was arch conservative, very, very, very conservative.
That's not something you hear on soaps very often. Your beer truck driver.
I don't know if you've ever heard it before or since.
I don't think so.
And it's a stretch for me. They're hiring me to play, shrinks and lawyers. Anyway, I was brought in as a love interest for Katrina Carr, Nancy Snyder, who we went on to get married. We were married for 25 years. And as you know, we have two sons, wonderful sons, Max and Ben. But I was the only person in all of Bay City. No, was that Bay City?
Llaneview.
Llaneview. Thank you. I was the only person in Llaneview who didn't know that Katrina Carr had a past as a hooker. And so I found out the night before our wedding, and I was too upset to get married the next day. And then I hurt her so badly that she never took me back after I realized that it didn't really matter to me. She would not take me back. So that was that.
Pam said, my late mother and I saw Stephen and Othello in DC in the early 1980s. You did Othello.
Playing Cassius, probably. Yeah, the young lieutenant.
That's awesome. And how long did Marcello last?
He lasted a couple of years. They wanted me to re-up, but he was a secondary character, and I was hungry for more of a challenge. So Joe Stewart had me into his office and said, "We'd like to have you sign up for another, couple of years." And I said, "Joe, I really like it here. I'd love to do that, but I want more of a challenge and a little more story responsibility." And he said, to his credit, he said, "Well, I could promise you that, but I can't guarantee it." And I said, "Well, I think I can do better. And thanks very much." So we parted amicably. And within 4 weeks, Paul Rausch had me in for a screen test for Cass Winthrop with Nancy Frangione.
Incredible. Did you feel much more comfortable when you got to Llaneview than you did when you got to Salem on Days of Our Lives?
I did, but I felt most at home when I finally landed in Bay City as Cass Winthrop. That was there was a synchronicity. All the planets were aligned. The acting company that I was working with, the writing staff, the executive producer, and even Procter and Gamble, their creatives who oversaw the show, they let me, with the writers, develop this character who was just such a joy to play. I got to do everything in those 17, 18 years on that show, from high drama to high jinks to farce. And it was such a great experience, such a rich experience for me.
Do you remember how Paul described Cass to you, and what was it about Cass that, drew you to him?
What drew me was he was a rogue. He was a charming bad guy. And I knew I was in after a couple of years of playing that. I knew I was in when they started to rehabilitate his character and turn him into kind of one of the show's heroes. But he always had that the heft or weight of that past So there was always a twinkle, no matter what the story was, no matter how much further into my run on the show, there was always a twinkle that related to the origins of the character. Especially all the stuff with Felicia and Wallingford and.
Absolutely. Do you remember your first day there?
Nah.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't.
only
At least it wasn't traumatic like my first day on Days of Our Lives.
Oh, it was?
It was not.
Yeah. Good. Absolutely. Being paired. Well, first of all, talk about more about Paul as a producer. I love hearing Paul's stories.
He was controversial. He was very demanding, very mercurial. But if he liked you, he was a great supporter for me. He was 100% behind me. He didn't kiss ass or anything, but you just knew you had his backing, and he could be demanding, and he was tough. So it probably was not easy being his head writer.
Probably not. But he was really involved. He wanted the best from his show. He watched everything that was going on.
Yeah.
He really did.
Yeah.
Listening to Linda's debut podcast with you as a guest, will you share the story she did about her coming in for the role of Felicia?
Sure.
Half
the audience has probably heard it already, but
they might have.
Sure.
But it's so great that she was nervous. She didn't think she was right.
Can you see me rolling my eyes? Well, cut ahead 6 months.
She said you guys knew each other peripherally prior to her arrival?
No, not even peripherally. We knew each other. We didn't have scenes with each other, but we hung out and we loved each other the moment we saw each other on One Life to Live. The couple of years I was there, she played Gretel over there, and she too. There was a secondary character. I mean, she was, she needed to do better than they were doing for her there. So jump cut ahead 6 months after I screen test with Frangione for Cass, and Linda's screen testing with me on Another World. And there were some good actors that came in for the role of Felicia Gallant. And we were there for the callbacks, for the screen test. And she comes to my dressing room and she holds both my hands, squeezing the blood out of my hands. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know about this character. I'm not connected to her. I don't even know who she is. And I squeezed her right back and looked her dead in the eye. And I said, Linda, you are Felicia Gallant. And she hit a home run, and the rest is daytime history.
It really is. Susan was asking, were you aware at the time when you arrived that it was sort of the beginning of a new era with for Another World with so many new characters? Did it feel?
I was not aware of that because I didn't have a sense of what was normal and what isn't. Whatever people were coming and going, I just thought that was normal. Mm-hmm. I didn't know it was a new look or a new thrust for the story. But I know that during our show, comedy and having a sense of fun with the medium, the melodrama of daytime, was what developed as a stamp or a trademark for the show. And I think it's what set that show apart. All the other shows seem to hang into almost the telenovela, arch drama, melodrama of and the sound effects, bum 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 bum, sort of thing. So I know that developed during us. But in terms of the comings and goings and, the look of the show and an infusion of different characters that became focal, I can't comment on that.
Absolutely. Linda says, I remember Linda's entrance, all in white limo, white fur, yelling at her chauffeur. Wild.
Impersonating Liberace.
Yeah, basically.
Who was later on our show dressed all in white, I think.
Yeah, I remember that.
He loved Felicia Gallant. He was a huge fan of Felicia's. So he was as thrilled when he came on our show as we were to have him.
That's wild. Did you both hit it off immediately? Fast friends?
Totally. Just total chemistry on and off the set. I was just up at her house 3 weeks ago.
Well, I know. Oh, wow.
Every time I go up there, we do addenda to her podcast in with Linda Dano. And we just, we sit in front of her fire and we talk like you and I are talking. And we kill each other laughing.
The cutest thing was the phone ringing. And you're like, just let it go. She's like, I don't know what to do. She was like, I don't know what to do.
Did you see the latest? Did you see it or listen to the latest?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, I'll try to listen to that one. But I love, she basically said, you will, both be friends until your last breaths. Is there something, you could share today that fans would be surprised? I mean, even after all these years, to know about her?
Her insecurity. She doesn't understand, which is part of her magic. She doesn't understand how people consider her a fine actor, and she feels like she's pulling one over on everybody. But also, this is no surprise, her fierce loyalty. I mean, did you see the podcast that we did with Wallingford at the anniversary of his death? That's the second. I did her inaugural podcast. Then she had me come up and do a special with Brent for Brent Collins, where she put together a lot of footage.
Oh, wow.
And that's technically it's not great, but in terms of content, it's wonderful, and it's a great tribute to him.
What do you remember about Brent?
He was very Christ-like this Easter weekend. He had a huge heart, and it was open to all. Not a negative bone, not a critical bone. It was all beautiful. And he was, when we went to his memorial service at St. Malachi's Church in New York City.
Oh, wow.
Half the church was filled with Another World people. The other half of the church was filled with, he was an editor at a magazine. We didn't even know this. We'd worked with him for years. He never talked about that. He had a whole other life, and we got to meet and learn about his impact on that circle of friends and colleagues. So he was quite a guy.
Wow. Some fans I noticed earlier, and I didn't want to forget, they were asking about Anne Heche. Any memories of working with Anne?
She was dazzlingly, ridiculously talented, coming on the show at 19.
You could see that from the get-go?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. And the total commitment, it takes total commitment, but then you also, which Linda has, I have, a number of people have total commitment. But on top of that, there's somebody that you can't take your eyes off of. And Annie had that.
It's incredible, the talent that walked through the doors of Bay City.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And so many of them were just good people. That was extraordinary.
It's nice to see good things happen to the good people. Absolutely. Favorite story? I'm sure we've talked about it before, but fans always love to hear that.
Well,
did you ever suggest story?
What's that?
Were you an actor who liked to suggest ideas?
Not particularly. No, I was better editing. I knew when something didn't work, but I wasn't good at generating story arcs or anything like that. I thought, that's the writer's jobs. How dare I do that? I always felt my job was to use the writer's words and the director's instruction and bring my talent to meet those, to give it what it's asking for. And let the chips fall where they may. Very seldom in 53 years of acting have I quibbled. I will express a point of view, and I will support my point of view if it differs from a direction I'm getting, for example. But as long as I've been heard, the veto power goes to the director, and I'm there to I serve at the pleasure of the director and the writers. So the special story is probably around Crystal Lake. It was such a silly storyline. And John Weitzel, the executive producer, I think it was John, maybe it was Michael Laibson, had me into the office. They said, "We're thinking of doing a Tootsie storyline. Would you be up for it?" And I said, as long as I'm feeling supported by wardrobe and makeup and the writing staff, let's go for it. So it was funny story. I mean, just the name of the loan shark that I owed $100,000 to, Tony the Tuna. I mean, you can't make this thing. You can't make this up, but you did.
And your name was Crystal Lake.
Yes.
Tony the Tuna.
And I, in order to do a little homework, I met with Dustin. Did I tell you this before, Alan? I may have.
Oh, you might have.
I met with Dustin Hoffman's dresser while he was doing Death of a Salesman on Broadway. His name escapes me. Let's call him Jim. Jim had met Dustin when Dustin hired him away from Divine. Wow. He was Divine's dresser on an international tour. And Dustin, when he was contracted to do Tootsie, hired this person to help him with all the trappings and the walk and stuff like that. So somehow I was put in touch with him. And while Dustin was acting upstairs from his dressing room during Act 1, they let me in the stage door into his dressing room, and Jim and I went over discussing long line bras and hair plugs to lift underneath, and how you hide it underneath the wig, and how you do a walk, a sexy, a feminine walk. He taught me you caress the insides of your thighs together. And I promise you, Alan, if you do that after we hang up, you're going to see how you sashay, and you'll see what he meant. Jim was right.
Have you ever had to put it to use since again?
Have I what?
Ever had to put those lessons to use again since Crystal Lake for another role?
I'll never tell. No, I have not. But back to Mr. Chisholm in my high school English class. The first part I ever played was a cross-dressing part in a classic British Victorian farce called Charlie's Aunt.
Well, talk about
three Oxford students are hanging out. Two have girlfriends that are due for tea, and they needed a chaperone, and they were going to propose. So it's a big event. And Charlie's aunt is supposed to arrive from Brazil, but the boat is hung up. So they have me, Lord Fancourt Babberley, Fanny Babs, dress up as Charlie's aunt so that I can chaperone properly for the girls. So it started with that.
Crazy. Well,
Crazy.
let's take a quick look at Crystal Lake. It comes on right after.
No, nothing's wrong.
Good. I hate to intrude where I'm not wanted.
Actually, Miss Lake.
Crystal,
Crystal,
please.
if you don't mind.
I do hope you will come to our society meetings, Harry. Men are in such short supply. Real men, that is.
Actually, the Romance Society was always Mother's thing.
And now you must make it your own. Consider it a legacy. The second generation. My, what a wonderful distinction. It would be an honor for us to welcome as romantic a soul as yourself.
Me?
Oh, now don't you be coy, Harry Windsor. I know a prince of a man when I see one. I can spot a truly sensitive soul from a mile away. And a very healthy specimen, I might add. Are you single, Harry?
Miss Lake, I'm very busy today.
Of course.
You must have had a blast.
Total, absolute, complete blast.
It,
And I could have eaten dinner. I could have been taken out to dinner for a month by every guy in the crew.
Did you do you prefer the comedy or drama element?
Oh, I like both. You know, they're both so juicy to sink your teeth into.
Yeah, and you don't really get that often on soaps comedy. You really
You
don't.
No.
Yeah. I mean, we shed tears probably a lot more than we laugh watching daytime drama.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Talk about Chris Goutman. I mean, he was the EP at the end of Another World, and he then brought you over to As the World Turns. What did you think of that idea when that came about?
Which idea? Chris going or me following or
Both.
all of the above? Chris is great. Chris is a triple threat. He's a fine actor. He's on Texas, among other things. Really good actor. But he had the touch when it came to to producing. He was an excellent director and knew exactly what he wanted, had a keen visual sense, still does. I don't know, but the past tense is because that was back then. And he was a tremendous producer. And so he was a joy to work with. And I was thrilled when he had me, he didn't just throw me a bone when I went over to World Turns. I was on that for almost 2 years, and I had a lot of fun with Hunt, playing the lawyer to a bad guy,
Yeah.
I mean, what fun.
Hunt's a good guy.
He is a good guy.
Yeah. And talented too, I loved watching Hunt. When you found out, how did you find out Another World was being canceled?
Well, for years, we'd come right up to the 11th hour and they'd renew us for one more year. So for years, we knew we were in jeopardy. But the kiss of death was our 35th anniversary coffee table book came out. And right after that, the announcement hit. All that money, all that energy for a beautiful coffee table book. And I guess it's a collector's item now.
It is. I have one downstairs. What do you miss most about Another World?
Oh, the people, having a place to go. I after days and even after one life, I could have extricated myself from daytime if I had wanted to. I even left Another World for about 6 months during John Weitzel's reign there, and went out like January through till June. Went out to LA with my 6-month-old Max and Nancy, and we drove across country. And
Wow.
Peter Bergman did it simultaneously. I remember meeting Peter out there. It was the last great pilot season where it was condensed all in one, late winter. And I went up for 24 really good parts in pilots. And I know I'm getting nostalgic. Remember pilot season when it was?
I know.
And I met Peter at our first, at the first audition of that season, and we were both gonna knock the town on its ear, And then I couldn't get freaking arrested, and I see Peter at the last audition that I went to that spring, and I said, "Peter, how you doing?" He said, "It's not going well." I said, "Me either." And I can't get arrested, and so. Weitzel had been calling me like every 6 weeks. You ready? You ready to come back? You come back? And I finally said, so Peter called Y&R and I called Weitzel back and I said, I'm ready. This is not for me.
And how lucky.
I just don't like being between jobs. And so for 22 years, essentially, I was an actor that was never between jobs. Well, I mean, I jumped from one show to another, but it was hardly, time to take a long weekend before I started the next one. So I just liked having a place to go with people that I cared about, that I worked with, and that I respected, and doing what I loved, and keeping my family in one locale, and being a presence in my son's life. So
yeah, I mean, when you want to work, you want to work and do the work.
yeah.
I have to read you. Nikki wrote, "I hate to admit it, but I stole the Another World book from Barnes and Noble years ago. Forgive me, Lord."
You and Abby Hoffman steal this book.
That's crazy. You've done a lot of primetime stuff. Do you have a favorite?
Well, my favorites are the most iconic shows, I guess.
Homeland, Billions.
Homeland, being her psychiatrist.
Now, was
Not
he
just the
named
show
Cass?
and how great the show was. What?
Was he on IMDb? It says that his name was Cass. Was that true?
No,
I
it
didn't
wasn't
think so.
Cass. No.
Yeah, because I
You got to be
watched.
careful. You got to be careful what you believe with Google or IMDb. No, that was not Cass. I can't remember the doctor's name.
Yeah,
But a couple of
I
episodes.
remember. I remember when you. Yeah, that was great.
If ever a character needed a shrink, she was it. So it was the combination of what a great show that was, and the role that I portrayed.
That
and then
is
The
an
Wire, being in the
that is
last
an
2 episodes of
understatement
The Wire.
about needing a shrink.
Yes.
She needed a shrink for sure.
Right. Right.
Were you a fan of the show before you got the role?
Yeah. Yeah. But The Wire, I was a fan of The Wire also. Yeah. So that was
That's
a
the
thrill
Baltimore
wrapping
show,
that. I
correct?
was in the last 2 episodes of that, the conclusive season.
That's the Baltimore show.
Yeah.
I've missed that, and I need to watch that. I've heard.
Oh, you have a real treat ahead. It's dark, but it's brilliant.
Because I was debating between Oz and The Wire when I watched Oz, and I was blown away by Oz, and have been told I need to watch The Wire as well.
Yeah.
That's so funny. And you were also in, Rage of Angels. I'm a huge Jacqueline Smith fan.
Oh my God. I
I
forgot about that.
What do you remember about that?
Just that I was playing a smallish part, and I hoped that it would turn into something bigger.
Did you
like
get to
everyone
work
who
with
plays
her?
a small
I don't remember.
part.
It's been years since I saw. Did you get to work with her?
Yeah, I can't remember what we did, but yeah, I worked with her. Yeah, I had a mad crush on her. She was my favorite angel.
And she sat down with me.
Ooh, nice.
I mean, it was a dream come true. But yes, my favorite angel too. I mean, that Some lady. What are you watching today? Is there a show you're watching today that you would love a part on?
I just let's see. Oh, there's so much to choose from. I just finished watching Three Body Problem last night.
Well, because
Their first season.
somebody you know very well is in it.
Yeah. My son Ben speaks Chinese fluently in it and flies a helicopter and plays a young Jonathan Price.
Oh, wow. It's on our
Yeah.
list. We really were. Did you enjoy it?
It's good. It's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
excited.
it's very smart. At 2:00 today on NPR, they're going to talk to a scientist about how apropos or how literal the science theories are in this telling of the show. But to a non-scientist, it sounds impressive.
Yeah, I don't know what it's about. We saw the trailer a little. Yeah, I might reach out to you. Ben should sit down with me and talk about his career. He's done some great stuff.
Yes.
I mean,
some really great stuff.
What did you think when he first said, "I'm following in your footsteps"?
Okay.
Did he ask for advice?
No. He never. I never pushed him. Oddly enough, he's fluent in Spanish. He has an ear for languages, romance languages, and he went into acting. He was early decisioned to Hampshire College in Amherst, and he took a gap year and started acting, studying, and then he took a second gap year, and then decided he wanted to become an actor, and went to. He wouldn't go to an American university acting program, a professional program. He wanted to go to a British one. So he worked almost a year on his audition pieces and stuff, acting coaches, very serious-minded, and super, super gifted and extremely hard worker. And he doesn't have a lot of action in Three Body Problem, but he's beautiful. He's just, he's a very special actor.
That's incredible. And I mean, I love the fact that he also, like you, languages.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not the same either, right?
He just observed and absorbed. And then he tried it out on his own. And then he said, what a coincidence. I'm interested in the same things as my father. I'll have to talk to him about that sometime, Ben, why did you get into all of this?
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. What does your other son do? Is he on the creative at all?
He's gone back to college, and he's going to the CUNY system in New York City.
Oh yeah,
and he's hoping to get into physical therapy.
I need him today.
Listen, the projections for the need for physical therapists going all the way through the 2030s for the next 20 years is off the charts. It's one of the big, nurses, and it's all the baby boomer population. There is a lot of disposable income among retirees, and a lot of aches and pains among retirees, and a lot of joint replacements now that's accelerated among retirees, and you need PT around joint, new knees and new hips and stuff. So it's a burgeoning field and has been for 10 years, but it's going to continue to grow. So it's smart of him, and we'll see what happens.
Well, you've at least got one on hand anytime you need. That's all.
Anytime he has homework.
Exactly. I was thinking some of the folks keep talking about different head writers. Did you have a favorite head writer over the years?
Oh gosh. Gary Tomlin was terrific. Lorraine Broderick was terrific. Peggy O'Shea was terrific. The Culletons were terrific. I had real admiration for almost all of them.
I think somebody was saying that it was possibly the Culletons who added humor. I'm not sure if that was
It
gonna.
certainly may have. I know that the gorilla storyline that originated with Wallingford, and then ended up being in our last episode ever, kidnapping me off of from my own wedding because it was attracted to my animal Musk. Uh, uh, the gorilla was named after Carolyn Cullerton. It was Caroline the gorilla.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah,
Did you like the last episode?
loved it. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, Alan? Come on. I'm at my wedding to Lila, outdoors, the whole town is there, and a gorilla bolts out of nowhere, having escaped from the zoo, and whisks me off in its arms with the town screaming, running after us. And then the town searching everywhere and finally finding me cradled tightly in the arms of a gorilla on top of a gazebo in a park in town. And everybody screaming, "Look, there he is." And me saying, "Don't yell, you'll upset her. She loves Broadway tunes." And them singing a Broadway tune to calm her down while the zookeeper sedates her and I'm extricated from her arms. And then we carry on with the wedding. Did I love that storyline? Are you kidding me?
I need to find that. I don't think maybe I saw that back in '99. That's funny. That is funny. Lisa Peluso. What was she like? She was great.
She was great. She was great. Another person who was very she didn't realize how spectacular she was. She was insecure and didn't have a sense of her ability and her talent, and she was a dream to work with.
Yeah. You really had it hard over there. You had it hard in Bay City.
Yeah. It was a lousy job.
Lousy job that someone had to do it.
Yeah.
I'd say the hardest part was going to Brooklyn.
You get used to it after 17 years.
Well, and you get a car, so yeah.
Yeah.
A little. Yeah, oh, and Gabriel just was writing what you shared earlier, that it was named after Carolyn.
Yeah.
That's so funny. So funny. Stephen, always great to see you, my friend. Have an amazing trip out west.
Thanks, Alan.
Fans are very excited. They definitely caught wind. So
oh dear. I hope the powers that be. Everybody keep it quiet.
Yeah, keep it quiet until
I'm going to get in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. You have a great weekend, my friend.
Happy holidays. Great weekend. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you, my friend. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Don't miss Steven on season 9 of The Bay, which starts filming very soon, and in Salem. But shh. Please join us next week as we celebrate 40 years of The Locher Room. Wednesday, April 3rd, Guiding Lights Grant Alexander will be my guest. And on Thursday, August 4th, please all come say hello to 2 incredibly talented young men as we celebrate Autism Acceptance Month with these 2 gents. And then on Friday, rounding out the week, I am incredibly excited to welcome for the first time Deirdre Hall to The Locher Room. Please, if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on the notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And I hope if you like today's episode, you click the like button. It certainly helps. And if you like to stream audio versions, you can search The Locher Room on your favorite streaming platform. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you for an incredible 4 years. And please, everybody, stay safe.